For decades, Tron has been Disney's fetch from Mean Girls. They keep trying to make it happen, but it just won't stick. 1982's Tron and 2010's Tron Legacy were stunning visual marvels that struggled to create an impactful story that didn't also come off as ridiculous. Disney's attempt at an animated series, Tron Uprising, only lasted one season, and maybe its most successful iteration has been the Tron Light Cycle Power Run roller coaster at Shanghai Disneyland and at the Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World, which sort of makes sense as it presents this world as just vibe, cool lights and music, and without the struggles of a narrative. Disney has been working on a third film in this series since the release of Tron Legacy, news that was met mostly with a shrug. Despite making $400 million worldwide, the limitations of this series became apparent with Legacy, as maybe this was just a series that was aesthetically pleasing, but story-wise was mind-numbingly silly. Maybe it's the fact that Tron Ares was in some form of development for about 15 years, or perhaps it's just that Disney has learned from their previous mistakes. But Ares proves that the third time is the charm with this series, as we finally have a film that begins to realize the possibilities of this world created over 40 years ago.
What is Tron Ares about?
Tron Ares seemingly knows how convoluted and strange the previous iterations of these stories have been, and keeps things relatively simple, yet still expectedly a bit goofy. In Ares, two tech companies are fighting for the future of AI, a technology that will bring things from the digital world into the physical world. One company, Dillinger Systems, is run by Julian Dillinger, the grandson of Ed Dillinger from Tron. Julian recently took over the company from his mother, Elizabeth, and wants to use this technology for military purposes, creating super soldiers that can be rebooted with impressive tanks and weaponry. The only problem is that Julian can't figure out how to make these digital creations survive in our world for more than 29 minutes without having them crumble into non-existence. On the other end of the battle for this technology is Eve Kim, the current CEO of Dillinger Systems. Eve is attempting to finish the work of her sister Tess by finding Kevin Flynn's permanence code, which will allow digital creations to exist in the real world without any time limit. Eve, however, wants to use this technology for good and to uplift humanity by solving world hunger and creating medical breakthroughs. Soon after Eve discovers the code at her sister's old lab, Julian essentially 3D prints out his system's master control, known as Ares, and his second-in-command, Athena, to hunt down Eve and find the code to help Dillinger Systems win this war. Yet since Ares is super intelligent and can learn basically anything he wants about both Julian and Eve, he finds himself caught in the middle of what he should do. Should he obey the questionable choices of Julian, or should he assist Eve in doing what would be best for the world?
Tron Ares is a step up for this series.
Is Tron Ares some action masterpiece that shows Disney has finally unlocked the code to make this series great? Not quite, but compared to the other films in this series, it definitely feels like a step in a compelling direction that's starting to figure out what works and what doesn't. The world of Tron is almost always likely to be absurd and more about vibe than a fantastic story, and Ares leans into that. Like the other two films, Ares still works best when it keeps its mouth shut and allows us to stare at the pretty visuals while a great soundtrack plays along. Speaking of learning from Tron Legacy, maybe the greatest strength of Ares is its brilliant soundtrack, composed by Nine Inch Nails. The score here is thrilling, even when not much is happening, and Trent Reznor and company lean into the 80s aesthetic at times through the music. Reznor and Atticus Ross have become incredible composers over the last few years, and their work on Tron Ares will likely go down as beloved as their scores for movies like The Social Network and Challengers. Director Joachim Rønning has long been Disney's go-to filmmaker for giving a series another chance, as we've seen with 2017's Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Men Tell No Tales and 2019's Maleficent: Mistress of Evil. Despite cinematography by The Social Network and Fight Club's Jeff Cronenweth, Ares can't live up to the visuals of the first two films, primarily because most of the film takes place in the real world, but it comes close. Instead, Rønning pays homage to the past while bringing this series into a more tangible modern world and still making it fairly gorgeous to look at. The vehicles stream beams of light as they maneuver their way through real cities, vehicles and characters look badass, and the visits into the computer are pretty fantastic, as one would expect, while also referencing the previous two films quite nicely.
The world of Tron can't help but be inherently goofy and ludicrous at times. While the other two films often got lost in the complex ideas of what these virtual worlds actually were, with hunts for MacGuffins and meanings that were fairly bland, the screenplay by Jesse Wigatow keeps Ares simple yet effective. Wigatow has boiled down the world of Tron to that of virtual and real worlds combining, good and bad CEOs, and fairly straightforward concepts that aren't exactly going to leave you scratching your head. This isn't The Matrix, it's more like Barbie, but with virtual tanks and a 9 Inch Nails soundtrack. It's as though Wigatow knows that people go to Tron movies for the remarkable visuals and thumping score, but also that people are going to want a coherent story that doesn't have to be great, just understandable. It's the bare minimum, but it mostly works for Tron Ares. That being said, it's still ludicrous at times and can't shake the goofiness apparently inherent in this series. This is still a story that is asking viewers to cheer on a tech billionaire as opposed to another tech billionaire, simply because of how they want to use artificial intelligence. This is still a film that has Jeff Bridges make an appearance as Internet Jesus, calling people man after living in a computer for decades. This is still a film where Jared Leto as Ares gives a dissertation on Depeche Mode that would leave Patrick Bateman unsettled. Tron Ares takes this series to just the right level of dumb, while still keeping it entertaining in its own way. As for the characters in these films, they're understandably fairly one-note, but they're slightly better in Ares. Leto essentially plays Ares like a robot starting to slowly gain awareness of the world, and he's fairly decent in this role. Greta Lee is a charming protagonist and manages to hold her own in the film's big action sequences, while Evan Peters is underwhelming as the film's primary villain, left to enter commands behind his computer and become overwhelmed when things don't go his way. Most impressive here is Jodie Turner-Smith, who is the more binary program, stuck in completing her mission by any means necessary. Turner-Smith is great at the smaller moments, where she gets close to feeling human emotion, but shakes it off in order to achieve her command. Unfortunately, secondary characters played by Hassan Minhaj, Sarah Desjardins, and Arturo Castro are mostly relegated to filling in plot hole gaps with random lines during action sequences. Tron Ares isn't likely to turn Tron into the major franchise Disney has clearly wanted it to be for decades, but it is a sign that the company has a smarter understanding of what these movies need to be. Exciting to look at, with a great soundtrack, and with a story that's dumb fun. Tron Ares not only achieves that, but finds fun ways to fit in the other installments that make you actually want to see more installments in this world, as opposed to having them forced upon us. Tron Ares isn't a killer app, but it is a solid upgrade. Tron Ares comes to theaters on October 10th.